Hi Jesse, how are you doing?
Good.
Welcome to Christchurch. How long have you been here?
Well, I'm actually just here for the week with my grandparents. And I emailed Christchurch Aerospace and I asked if they had any sort of internship thingies that I could get some experience, and then they worked out this, which is pretty cool.
That's great. Happy to have you here.
Yeah.
We hear you've got an amazing technological solution to energy storage, maybe a low carbon energy storage system. We'd love to hear a bit about that at the end if that's okay with you.
Yeah, cool.
Great.
Now, let's jump into questions. When and why did you decide to get into the aerospace industry?
So I think I realised when I was at school that I loved engineering. I didn't sort of know until sort of quite a long way through school that it was engineering I loved doing. I love electronics and technology and a bit of software programming and making things and creating things and using technology to solve problems. And somebody explained to me that sounds a bit like engineering and maybe I should think about studying that. So I went and did an engineering degree, and it was only really towards the end of that I thought, actually, what do I want to do with this engineering? And realised that actually if I could couple this with a love of space and all the stuff you look at when you're a kid, all the rockets and NASA shuttles and all that stuff, then maybe I can use my engineering skills and do some cool stuff for space.
Cool. If you could go back in time to your 12-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
I think really take the opportunity at school with all the teachers and resources around me to use that time for learning, and the same through college and university. So I had a couple of periods where I took my foot off and wasn't really focused on academic studies, and it just meant I had to work harder to catch up a bit later in life. There's never too late to learn, but maybe just pay a bit more attention to some of my classes at school and be kind on my teachers as well. They've got a tough job.
Yeah. Some people say that we shouldn't spend money on aerospace when there are so many problems down on Earth. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's a really good point of view, isn't it? A really good question. I think the way I see it, space is everywhere in the universe that isn't this little planet or a tiny little crust that we live on. So if you think of space as just being everywhere else, then it seems to me kind of important that we go there, we start getting out, we start studying and understanding and making the tools to get out off the planet. But then the question is, what do you do? What do you do with those tools? And that's the same question you need to ask for any technology. We've got this power to do something. What do we do? Do we use it for good or sort of not good? So I think it's up to engineers really to be part of making those decisions and not just to design the tools and let other people make the decisions on how to use them. So I think we as engineers and scientists need to be really conscious of what we're working on and why we're doing that.
Cool. And what were the best and worst days of your career?
I honestly can't think of a single worst day, but there have been lots of tough ones. So a lot of my work has been in projects, building things, testing things, and sometimes when something goes wrong and then the next thing goes wrong and the next thing goes wrong, it can get a bit hard and tough, but you've always got great people around you to sort of pick yourselves up as a team and move forward. So I can't really pick one worst day. I think the best day that stands out for me is watching a launch of a NASA mission, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that I've worked on. And I've worked on it as an engineer and worked on the spacecraft, and then standing at Kennedy Space Center and watching that launching on a beautiful day off to the moon. I think that was a real highlight for me.
Cool. When people think of aerospace engineering, they often think of maths and physics, but what role do you think creativity has in it?
I think maths and physics give you the tools to be creative. As an engineer, you're applying those tools in a creative way and you're solving problems every day. So I think creativity, maths and physics, and they really go hand in hand. And I'm sure, really good mathematicians and physicists need to be really creative as well. So I don't see them as separate things. I see it all part of one thing. Yeah.
Cool. Why do you think Christchurch or Canterbury is a great place for an aerospace hub?
I think it's almost started itself. There are so many people here and so many organisations doing some really cool and technically challenging things in the area of aerospace. The sort of hub is building itself, so all we're really doing is pulling this together and giving it some coordination and helping everything just to happen, because things are already happening here.
Yeah. What is the most interesting project you've worked on at Project Dynamics, your company, in Christchurch or New Zealand?
I think there's a few good ones to pick. I'm going to pick the very last project I worked on, which was I delivered a course at the university called, it was about technology and innovation management. So it was really interesting because I got to work with a load of really inspiring, enthusiastic engineers from all around New Zealand and all around the world. And teach them and work with them to think about how we develop new technologies. So that was great. Really enjoyed it.
Cool. And why did you want to start your company, Project Dynamics?
I wanted the opportunity to work with great people, work on interesting technologies, and learn new things. That does it for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. We just wanted to ask you at the end about your invention. Don't tell us too many secrets, but we'd love to hear about it.
So I originally sent the idea to MIT in the States, and they sent back with some advice and confirmation that it would work. And then I started working on a more local basis with Victoria University in Wellington about the idea. And the idea generates lots of electricity and actually helps and integrates the move from like coal and fossil fuels to renewable energy. And it's kind of like a combination of hydroelectricity and steam.
That's brilliant. So where have you been working on this?
I was working with Alan Brent at Victoria University the day before I left for Christchurch actually, and he's going to help me build the theoretical side, and then we might start talking to some big companies.
Cool. And what's your interest in aerospace, Jesse?
Well, ever since I was young, I've always loved engineering and loved building, and I've got like Meccano and Lego at home, Lego Technic. And then we lived in the States and I went to JPL and I just saw them building like rovers and things in the White Room where they all have to dress up, and I thought that's definitely what I want to do when I grow up.
That's cool. And here's maybe a difficult question. What advice have you got for 40-year-olds that are around you, people sort of my age maybe?
Well, don't be afraid to reach out. Like I reached out to Aerospace Christchurch, and then look what happened. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask people for help and just experience.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Jesse. Great to meet you.
Cool. Thank you.